Welcome back, troops. Let's Tab 59. So it's Father's Day, so big shout out to all the dads out there, the unsung hero dads. Hopefully those of you are fathers, you are dads, you've had, well, it's UK anyway, it might not be in the United States or elsewhere, but in the UK it's Father's Day. So hopefully you've had breakfast in bed, or you're being taken out for a nice Sunday lunch, and you've had a few cards. So, DOS bags, green maggots, sleeping bags, in other words. So, and different ways of sleeping out in the field. I don't know about you veterans or you serving soldiers, but when we used to get out in the field, probably the first night at least, I never used to be able to get to sleep very well. Even if I was knackered, been training, I don't know, it's the first night out in the field, always struggled. After that, normally after being out in the field for a day or so, I was sleeping on a washing line. It didn't matter. Now, interestingly, when my good old dad was still alive and he was a veteran, he was in the army just after the end of the Second World War, about 1949 he joined up. He told me that they just used to take a blanket off their bed with them, a couple of blankets off their bed, and roll them up inside their inside their poncho, which is like their sleeping shelter, a waterproof top, if you like. So you just roll up a couple of blankets in that. I'd have thought there'd have been some sort of sleeping bag system. I had a quick look online, and apparently, in First World War, certainly, officers used to be able to get some form of sleeping system. I think they used to privately purchase it themselves, something like that. Morning. But I think the rest of them, rank and file, rolled a couple of blankets up inside a poncho, like I was saying. That was you rolled yourself up in that. Of course, they were issued with a greatcoat as well. Don't know what was great about it, apart from it being warm. Imagine that thing when it got wet. Big old heavy serge wool, long trench coat, if you like, greatcoat. That must have been pretty rough. My earliest recollection, obviously, when I joined up, 76, we had the 1958 pattern sleeping bag, which was about as much use as a roof rack on a helicopter. They were useless, weren't they? I mean, I think one of them I had, they got bashed about all over the place. If you got a fairly new one issued, it'd be all right, but 9 times out of 10, these sleeping bags have been used over and over and over, laundered through the army system, and they were next to useless. Very thin material, had sort of like a stitched on waterproof base to it. It came with a little liner, a little nylon liner that you could fix on the inside so that, you know, it kept it fairly clean. You didn't have to, you could take that out and launder that, clean that individually, and until the bag got really messy, then it'd get laundered by the system. Well, I don't know about you, but my unit, or the units I was in, the sleeping bag wasn't like a clothing issue item. So you've got your 1157, your clothing issue equipment and that, but your sleeping bag wasn't on that. That was a G1098 item, along with your webbing. So you signed it out from the company of battery, squadron stores or whatever, when you was with that unit. And if you got posted and moved around before you left, you'd hand all that kit back. Then you get to your next unit, and they'd issue a new, well, not new, they'd issue you a sleeping bag and webbing, etc. So it meant that these bags have been bashed around. My one, I remember, I used to have about 4 feathers in it. 2 of them were wet. It was awful. I was in the back of a 4-tonner once, freezing, zipped up in my DOS bag. And my mate got in the back of the truck. It was night time, obviously, stupid o'clock in the morning. And my mate come in the back of the truck with a torch on, and I could see him. I could see his silhouette through the sleeping bag. I tucked myself right up, got my head under the bag, and I could see through the sleeping bag and see him walking around in the back of the truck with a torch on. Nightmare. It had like, the whole thing used to roll up into sort of like a hood. And of course, again, in the early days, we didn't have a Bergen, so the DOS bag, the hood was sort of shower proof, I suppose. It wasn't waterproof. So you used to chuck the whole thing inside a black refuge bag, a black sack, and then strap that to the outside of your 58 pack, the old large pack on your 58 webbing. And that would be bouncing around, knocking your helmet over your eyes and all sorts when you had that on. So it was I mean, we had some rough old kit back then, let me tell you. I know it worked, but it was tough. Obviously, I think it was the late 90s, maybe about 1999, something like that. PLCE had already come out anyway. Can't remember the exact date, but we got the new sleeping system, which was a much better sleeping bag. As I say, the 58 bag was down feathers, you know, and they were like sewn in little quilt pockets, if you like. And it all used to, when it got wet or it got damp or it got old, all the feathers would clump up in one place. So it was pathetic. When the new bag come along, like I say, when we had PLC 90 and that, the new sleeping system come, it was fantastic, apart from, of course, it was a bigger bag. It meant it was heavier, more bulky. But it did come with a compression sack, which was pretty good. And you could stuff the whole thing inside the compression sack and, as it says, compress it down by pulling the straps down. And that squashed the bag, got all the air out of it, made it a lot smaller. Called it a bouncing bomb, you remember? You could play rugby with it. So you had the sleeping bag, the new sleeping system, and you had the compression sack. And you also got a bivvy bag. Because up until then, most guys were buying, certainly in the infantry, everyone was buying their own bivvy bag. And that was a thing back then. Because we didn't get particularly good kit, you'd try and buy stuff. You get a Silverman's before the internet days when you could shop online. There was a company in London, probably still going, I don't know, called Silverman's. And they had like a catalogue and you could order it through the post, if you like. And they'd send kit out, even out to Germany. Or you'd come home on leave and pick kit up. There's surplus shops around. There's one in Brecon. They were dotted around all over, nearly always in a garrison town. You'd find at least one surplus store where you could buy Gucci kit, as we called it. So a lot of us, before the issue bivvy bag come out, we purchased our own. And that's how we got by. Somebody told me when the lads went down to the Falklands in '82, most of the kit they took down. There was some locally purchased kit in Ishington, Bergens, etc. But a lot of the guys are taking their own stuff down there. So that's the sleeping system we had at the end. I say the bag, the bivvy bag, and the compression sack. And of course, just prior to all that, they started to issue a roll mat, a kip mat. So a little foam sheet that you could roll up, get it as small as you could, and that way it's to go across the top of your large pack maybe, or underneath. And then when we got Bergens, so obviously there was a place for it to go down the side or over the top, however you wanted to do it really. Again, it's that thing when you're packing your kit and you're going out in the field, especially if you're on foot in the infantry, in the light roll maybe, you're not in vehicles very much, you've got to hump your kit everywhere. You got all this comfy kit, you've got to hump it on top of all your other stuff, your ammunition, your water, your rations, mortar bombs, whatever you've got to carry, anti-tank rocket systems, whatever. So it's great having all this kit, but you've got to hump it. And that was the problem, wasn't it? More kit you get, harder it is to hump around on it. So let me know what your thoughts are on the sleeping system. You've got any horror stories? I've had some horror stories. I know once, tell you what, once, all our sleeping bags were handed in and put on shelving. And one of them was infested with something. I can't remember now whether it was, I don't know, lice or something. But it contaminated all the bags and they all had to be squared away and sorted out before it spread amongst everybody. So, yeah, some horror stories on the old sleeping systems, but be interested to know what your thoughts are on that. And if you've got any humorous stories about DOS bags, that'd be a good one. So let me know in the comments. Right, troops, thanks for listening. Till the next time, and it won't be long. Remember, let's tap.